I'm always drawn to cakes that have lots of spices in it. Spices like ginger, mixed spice and cinnamon. And that's what I'm going to make for you today. This is a very classic cake and I love it also because it's got a deep, rich flavour because I'm going to be adding some treacle into it. So we'll start the classic way, lots of butter. Softened butter, it's just going to make it so much easier to whip with the sugar. So I've just cubed the butter along with some brown sugar as opposed to caster sugar. Again, we're looking for that rich flavour, and I'm just going to blend this together until it's combined. Now I want to mix this until it starts to become slightly pale and fluffy. Once we get that result, I'm going to add the eggs. We'll need 3 eggs and I'll add them one at a time, mixing really well between each egg. Okay, that 3rd egg has been incorporated, so now it's time to add some extra flavours to this. A little bit of vanilla bean paste, about a teaspoon, squeeze that in. And then I love the dark, rich colour and the sweetness of some treacle. This is what makes it so deep in colour. Okay, in that goes. And I'll just give that one last whisk before we start adding in our dry ingredients. Okay, now for the all-important flour, I'm using an extra white, low-protein, self-raising flour. So it already has the rising agent in it, so you don't need to add extra baking powder. And you can see that it's already been sifted and it's light and fluffy. This is going to give us a lovely raise in our cake. I'll also add a combination of mixed spice, lots of ground ginger, and some cinnamon. Okay, so just on a really low speed, we'll incorporate these. Okay, that's enough mixing. I will finally fold in a good pinch of salt and a hint of milk. So this is where I like to use my spatula just to fold everything together. I'm using a square tin for this cake. I've also lined it with some baking paper just to make it easier to come out later on. And we'll just add our cake mixture. And this goes into the oven at least 30 to 35 minutes. What I like to do is just pierce it through the center of the cake. If a skewer comes out clean, you know it's cooked. And I've also preheated the oven. It needs to be at 180 degrees. Right, the lovely spice cake is out of the oven. Look how much it's risen. It's just right. Now I do allow it to cool completely before you add the frosting. So let's get on to the frosting. I like to combine the butter and the cream cheese first before starting to add the icing sugar. So you'll need about 115 grams of butter, and I like to use unsalted butter when I'm making a frosting. So we'll just take that out. And again, you want your butter to be quite soft. So we're just going to cut it into smaller cubes. And there are so many different frostings that you could add to this, but I just love the light fluffiness you get from the butter and the cream cheese. It goes so nicely with that spiced cake. All right, our cream cheese, again, it's all softened, so everything's at room temperature. And we'll just blitz this until it's really smooth. Then little by little, I'll add the icing sugar. Oh, look at that. Isn't that the most glorious thing? Perfectly whipped cream cheese and butter frosting. Now for the fun part, which is dressing our cake. So we'll take it out of the tin very carefully. And we'll just take the baking paper away, just peel it off, and look at the base of this perfect cake. It smells so good too. Oh, love it. All right, I'm going to add a garnish of ginger snap biscuits. So just a few of these. And we just want to use a serrated knife to break them up. This is also a really great addition because you've got that soft, fluffy cake. You've got a really nice cloud-like topping and then texture, crunch from the bicky. It's a bit of fun. And I've got really fine parts and chunky parts. And that's exactly how I like it. All right, I'll grab a spatula and I'll generously spoon over this fluffy topping. So we start in the center. And then if you've got a palette knife, we're just gonna spread that out. And I just like to leave a tiny border just so we can see that golden color of the cake. And a sprinkling of our ginger snap bickies over the top. There we go. And we should cut into this because I want to show you how perfect it is inside. So this is kind of like a slab cake where you present it just in little pieces. So I'll take the crust off. That's my dad's favourite part, so we'll leave that for him. And then I'm going to cut perfect little squares. And another slice. And then we'll cut it this way. Again, just trimming the sides of the cake and then trying to get them roughly the same size. All right, let's have a look at this. The perfect crumb. I can smell the spices. It's the most delicious cake. When it hits the cooler months, this is a cake I turn to over and over again because it appeals to everyone. It's got lovely flavour to it. And it's a bit of fun by adding that ginger snap crunch at the top for a finishing touch. They look great, don't they?